What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Neck.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you, and one that, honestly, I've been kind of eager to go over because I went over the last one, and I don't know, apparently I irritated an entire fan base, but I might have a different take this time. I don't know. So today we're going over the latest offering from Lorna Shore. I Feel the Everblack Festering Within Me. This comes out on the 12th of September on Century Media Records. This band formed in 2009 in New Jersey. Interestingly enough, when I reviewed their last album, Pain Remains, they weren't on the archives. And now they're on the archives because of Pain Remains, which I find is just very strange because it's still very deathcore and it's the archives. They don't like deathcore. But through the archives, I found out that this band has no original members, which, I mean, there's tons of bands like that. And the name is a Batman reference, a character that was in a whole Batman series that I have never read. Whatever. This is their 5th album overall. Again, I reviewed their last album, Pain Remains, as a solo review, and we actually reviewed their lead-up EP to that, And I Return to Nothingness, which was the debut of one Will Ramos, who replaced scumbag CJ McCreary, who I hope is fucking face down in a gutter someplace, having his fucking testicles chewed on by a raccoon. Seriously, that dude's absolute scum has been kicked out of 2 decent bands, and, well, one can hope a third one. I don't know the band he's in right now, but I don't know. Again, as I said, you kick him out, you do better, because this band seemed to explode in popularity and become kind of, I don't know, like the front runner in terms of like symphonic deathcore. I suppose Shadow of Intent is in there. And despite what I said on the last review, I didn't like that album. I still stand by it. I think this is a lot better. There's a lot of improvements here.
I think I first heard of this band with the song To the Hellfire. In fact, I'm pretty sure that was the case. I was working with a dude at the time. It was like, you gotta check this out. It's a stupid heavy breakdown. Like, it's like offensively heavy. And I was like, okay. And I checked it out, and I remember it being a stupidly heavy breakdown. And I was like, well, that's cool. And that's about as far as I got outside of the EP that we reviewed. I'm not a big fan of this band, admittedly, and we talk about it all the time here, like we're kind of picky with our deathcore, and like, to me, the overall use of symphonics and things like that I find to be kind of goofy, but we're going to go ahead and get into that. This wasn't a terrible album.
No, honestly, it really wasn't. I mean, it definitely has its issues, and we'll definitely get into that, but I want to go over like the stuff that I feel that has improved on here, and right from the rip, like one of the things that I thought sounded a lot better in here was riff work. One of my main complaints about Pain Remains is I feel like I kind of latched onto that same, like, you know, mellow death, but, you know, like a little bit heavier style of riffing. And overall, the guitar work in here is more varied. There's a lot more in the way of dynamics, and the one thing that I think really shines in here is scorching fucking lead work.
Yeah,
Holy
man.
shit.
Every song, I don't have a complaint at all about any lead that appears on this record. They're speedy, but they're techy. Like, I get reminded of things more like Obscura or Mors Principium-esque. For the most part, they're fairly tuneful and, like, no problems.
Yeah, like, good showcasing of technique and the phrasing. They're melodically driven. There isn't anything on here where I feel like it's just, like, completely, like, wankified. They also hang out for a while, too, which I really like, because they really do excel in terms of the phrasing and where they come in terms of, like, you know, the riffs that match up, because, again, like, the riff right in here is pretty solid. Songs like Oblivion and War Machine lay into, like, some of the heaviest riffs on the album. It's a little bit darker. You get the big syncopated chugs, hefty, deep tremolos, and just, like, vicious, more, like, straight-up deathcore riffs. Like, just the meatiest things you could find. Solid pummeling grooves, lots of fucking blast beats. I mean, this album is pretty fast-paced for the most part in terms of all the fucking crazy blast beats on here. But this band mixes it up pretty well, and I mean, you get some stuff in here that is definitely very different. I mean, kind of akin to what they were doing on Pain Remains, but I don't know, I'm kind of hit or miss whether or not I would say it's always executed better, or, you know, there's some stuff that just flat out doesn't work. It's kind of hit or miss, but this album, at least at a certain point in here, just reaches for the sun and grabs it and gets bright and shimmering and starts wearing armor and cosplaying as a knight saving a maiden, except the maiden has neck tats.
Yeah. Pretty much from the song In Darkness all the way to Lionheart. I mean, we're talking like triumphant. We're talking about like dude with a sword and the sun is hitting the sword and like all the horses are worshiping this guy, and like there's unicorns and he's looking to the sky and there's kittens waving at him in the atmosphere, like huge.
These songs are fiercely major chord driven. honestly, like, there was a point, I think it was around, it might have been Unbreakable, where, you know, all of the brighter, kind of catchier riffs, because that one, I mean, honestly, the riffs kind of reek of, like, Children of Bodom. You know, not a bad thing. I still like Children of Bodom. But you get this weird contrast between that and the vocals, and of course, like, the stupid, heavy fucking breakdowns that drag knuckles across this fucking album. But I was kind of just going through my head in terms of imaginary scenarios. Like, was this band walking in some random enchanted forest in Finland, and they were bitten by a wild power metal band, or, you know, a pagan metal band? Like, because there's points in here where it just sounds like a band like Ensiferum, except with deathcore vocals, and then a knuckle-dragging breakdown every now and then. The melodies are glimmering, shimmering, and they're bright. Again, major chord-driven. They're actually pretty damn good, but you get this weird contrast in them. But to this band's credit, there's more dynamic on this one than the last one, so they do sink back into the darkness again, and do it pretty well. There's even some notes of black metal on here. Oblivion and Death Can Take Me. Like, you get those cold, icy riffs in there. The synths kind of change over to a much more dark setting, like we're no longer, you know, listening to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack in the background. It's more akin to, I don't want to say Danny Elfman, because it feels like it's a little quirky and whimsical, but I don't know, it's more gothic tinged. It's darker. It complements heavier music and a darker tone overall. Honestly, when Death Can Take Me came on, it was such a shift from the brightness of the song that preceded it, Lionheart, which charged forth into battle and rescued maidens right in front of me, all while going it was quite an entertaining mix. Death Can Take Me pretty much comes in darker, sinister, like right away the tone changes. It pretty much tells the sun to shut the fuck up and brings the darkness. And I did not get that on the last one. The last one felt like it kind of plateaued at a certain point, and it was just, again, like a mess of like melodic death metal riffs, breakdowns, and symphonic scores. Which, to this band's credit, again, I'm not like the biggest symphonic fan either, but this is less symphonic, I'd say.
Yeah, the symphonics, I wouldn't say appear on every track. In fact, they really only appear on a handful of tracks. In Darkness. Yeah. Yeah, they don't appear on every track. In fact, I would really say they only appear on a handful of tracks, and I'm happy about that. In Darkness was one of them, and I was like, you know, whatever. The last track is definitely one, and I was like, no, whatever. But it's not overpowering. Like, you get a lot of industrial synths too, or you get sometimes a lot more like just darker tones, which I think is a good idea. Leave the symphony shit at home.
And in terms of like the production on here, like I feel like the synths are moved back for the most part. There was only like a couple of songs like Prison of Flesh and Glenwood where I feel like some of the synths got like a little bit loud, but for the most part, I feel like the vocals and guitars kind of really command the forefront. And this was, once again, done by Josh Schroeder, who did the last one, and he also did the last Signs of the Swarm album that we went over. And again, like, I'm not like the biggest fan of his production style. It is very overproduced, and dear God, all the fucking bass drops are trying to kill speakers, man. Like, I don't want to jam this in my car. And I even know people that complain on Pain Remains, like, dude, I couldn't listen to this in my car because my speakers kept fucking clipping.
Yeah.
And that is, I would say, large in part due to his production style, but I guess in terms of like deathcore producers, he's a pretty sought after one. And outside of that, I don't have like a huge problem with the mix. Like, the vocals are nice and out in front, and fucking Will, he fucking owns on here.
I will give credit to Will Ramos, 100%. That dude has an outstanding vocal range and makes noises half the time that don't even sound human. And his ability to switch between those reminds me a lot of Travis Ryan from Cattle Decap, actually, especially on Nameless Hymn, which is probably one of the heavier songs on here. It's definitely got the nastiest breakdown on the record.
Oh, God.
1,000%. The breakdown in that song is fucking... Ugh.
Yeah, and his vocal flips are nuts on there. Even the song itself kind of sounds a bit like a Cattle Decap song. You have like more blackened melodies mixed in with like some like brutal, like more death metal riffs. And the song is just biting and snarling and dark. And again, that breakdown is disgusting. Which, another thing I think they have pretty much improved on here is breakdowns. Now, of course, this band was really good at just throwing in like the dumbest and heaviest of fucking breakdowns. Like, just disgusting. But I would also say a little derivative. Like, they were kind of just like real basic syncopation. I feel like the whole moment was there to kind of just let Will fucking growl, snort, fart, spit, belch, whatever he fucking does. Like, kind of in a big open moment where he can just kind of command that stage.
Yeah.
There are definitely breakdowns like that on here, but there's also some ones that are like a little bit more clever in terms of the syncopation. Nameless Hymn is definitely one of them. War Machine also has some really solid syncopation in there, and just some flat out solid grooves. Like, that one's got like some just gnarly Whitechapel grooves to it that just absolutely hit. And addressing another complaint of mine in terms of like transitioning to breakdowns, they're a little bit better on here. Not always. You do get some like real knee-jerk ones that just kind of come out of nowhere, like Unbreakable and Death Can Take Me and Lionheart, where, you know, all of a sudden you just get into this big stupid breakdown that doesn't necessarily fit the song. You know, it's just there because they hadn't done one in that song yet. That's the only reason I could think of.
Right, and that happens in actually quite a few songs, mostly towards the front half of the record where things seem to be a little bit less focused. Like, you'd be jamming this big melodic part, right, and then it cuts to like nothing or atmosphere, and then a stupid heavy breakdown, and like you're like, all right, why was that in there? Like the song Glenwood, an actually like well structured, well put together song. It's got a catchy hook in it. Like, I was like, all right, this is pretty much well put together. But that stupid heavy breakdown in that song doesn't need to be there.
It really doesn't, because that song has like a real good like kind of cornerstone melody that carries throughout it. It's epic, it's triumphant, it's a little bit darker. It kind of walks a balance of like kind of all the things they want to do here, because again, there's a lot of bright, epic, soaring, power metal-y stuff on here, just, you know, with Will Ramos on vocals. But there are points where they do make it work. Glenwood's probably the best example. I think that song's flat out epic, but there are a few issues with it, namely, you know, the breakdown that comes in, it just doesn't fit. When it comes out of it, it gets right back to those big melodic hooks, fucking scorching lead, like, it's like that breakdown never happened. And I'm honestly like, well, why did it happen?
And Lionheart's the same thing. Just out of nowhere, after another shimmering melodic moment, you have a pretty savage, brutal breakdown.
There is a little thing I do like about that one, because it starts off with like that more major chordy breakdown. Like, it's not as brutal right out of the gate, and then it shifts into the minor chords. And like, you know, it's extra brutal.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't fit the frolicking through the Shire sort of vibe of the song. Yeah. And again, like, there are points where that just really collides. Like, In Darkness is probably the biggest victim of that. That song, I feel like it's just like perpetually soaring and kind of grabbing for, you know, like the next soaring hook, but it never plateaus at a point where, you know, it kind of gets down to like verses and grooves or anything. It feels like it's a perpetual build to the next moment, which, I mean, yeah, if you have that constantly ascending energy, that's definitely the song for it. But my issue is, like, you have all these bright melodies and shimmering harmonies and such, but they feel aimless. They feel like they're lost. They're kind of just perpetually soaring, like, you know what, eventually the atmosphere is going to get too thin for us to breathe. We should come back down. But nope, it just kind of hangs out there, and it just feels like, you know, kind of an aimless moment on here.
The back half of the record I actually think is really solid. But in the front half, it seems like a bunch of like just disjointed parts just kind of thrown into a hat. And they just pick one out and they go, well, that sounds cool, let's put it here. And then they pick another one out and they go, well, that's cool, but let's put it at the front. And to be honest with you, the first like 3 or 4 songs are completely interchangeable.
There's also the issue of length. This is over an hour long, and I really don't feel like it needs to be, especially when you cut out like what I would call the post-production fluff. That is the bulk of like intros and lead-ups and all of these songs. And it's not just like the intros too. There's a couple of songs that do start off pretty strong, like the intro does feel necessary, but there's a lot where it doesn't. It just feels like it's there. It feels like it's chewing up time. And they also like to use that in terms of building up breakdowns. And yeah, a couple of times I can justify it. Like, that's that live moment where you get everyone fucking, you know, yelling back, like, hey, like whatever city you're in, they're saying that. And everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. But doing it so many times on here where they feel like every breakdown needs a build, or that transition, like, no, let's pause here, for atmosphere, it gets real fucking old after a certain point.
Yeah, because if you trimmed all that shit out, you could probably shave off easily 7-8 minutes, I would guess. You could probably have a really solid record that is straight to the throat, that's, 52, 53 minutes long, and be okay with it. Again, I'm not going to state that it's not necessary in all the tracks. There are a couple tracks where it makes sense, but there's not overall a need for it on every track. Like, every single fucking track on here opens up with some sort of atmospheric bullshit. And it's not always like dark or like creepy. A lot of it, again, starts off into shimmering territory.
Yeah, dude, I feel like we bounce back and forth from the fucking Shire to Mordor like multiple times on here. But I can see it working in certain songs. Like Forevermore, the long, grand closer in here, like some of those atmospheric spots kind of work with how big and epic that song gets. I mean, it opens up with like probably one of the most intimate moments of like just strings and female vocals, and builds into this giant epic song. Dungeons, deathcore, diners, drive-ins, and dragons, I guess. I don't know. The song is pretty damn good, and it does make good use of like lots of dynamics. That one probably has like the most like really solid riff changes on here where they really change it around a lot. But I can't help but to feel as though, like, again, some of this atmosphere could be trimmed off.
On the other hand, I will give Forevermore credit. That song is just shy of 10 minutes, and to be honest, it didn't drag like I thought it would. Like, I thought that there would be way more filler in it, or, that they would make those atmospheric things a lot more, like, grandiose than what they were, because they were trying to fill time. And the song did flow fairly well. Like, I wasn't bored by it.
No, I mean, honestly, it was a pretty well-paced song, and I do like the fact that this album does have some musical depth. It's not like a one-dimensional album that I kind of thought, Pain Remains was. The fact that it has stuff that showcases their heaviest side, and then, again, this more bright, triumphant symphonic side. Whether I like all of that together or not, it does kind of give this album like a very unique contrast.
A little depth.
And honestly, like, I kind of like this one. I'm not like fully in love with this, and I'm not going to say I'm like a hardcore fan, but I do see a serious improvement here, and this was infinitely more listenable than Pain Remains, at least. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. Honestly, it's pretty good. Like, when this band kind of latches onto the heavier, darker side, that's naturally where my ears prick up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But I have to admit, the brighter, more, like, epic fucking symphonic power metal moments, some of them really work. Like Glenwood, I swear, that song's a legit banger. It's catchy, it's got great melodies, and that contrast between, like, Will Ramos fucking pig-snorting his way through Narnia, and, like, the big melodies and fucking bone-crunching breakdowns. I don't know, there's something about that fucking works. Definitely still has some issues. Again, trim some of the fucking fat on here. I'm not, like, again, the biggest fan of the overproduced sound. And, again, pick your spots for breakdowns, maybe, like, a little bit better. Like, some of them just kind of come out of nowhere. And sometimes, honestly, they're not needed. You don't need a breakdown in every song. Where they show up and then they're most effective, keep them. I mean, again, Nameless Hymn, War Machine, breakdowns. Litter that fucking song with breakdowns. That's totally cool. Just leave them out of the more, like, shimmery stuff because they just don't fucking fit. But yeah, overall, I mean, if you like Shadow of Intense, Fit for an Autopsy, maybe. Actually, there's points in here that remind me of, like, Whitechapel, Aborted. I don't know. Like, if you just like modern deathcore and, like, a little bit of modern death metal, check this out. Honestly, it's pretty decent.
I'm going to go ahead and give it a 2.5. As I said, I'm not a giant fan of this band. However, I will say that there are fairly well done moments in here. There were actually a handful of songs I really enjoyed. Glenwood, oddly enough, being one of them. That's one of the more melodic songs. And it's also shimmering. And I don't think that heavy and shimmering quite go together like that. Maybe it's because I'm not a fan of the symphonic shit. I don't know. But I mean, these guys are still talented nonetheless. I think Will Ramos is an incredible vocalist. I will stand on the hill that Will Ramos needs to start a grindcore band and just be done with it, dude. That guy, I tell you what, his vocals in a grind band would be insane. I'm a huge fan of their drummer, Austin Vickers. I think Austin is a fucking phenomenal drummer. His kick speed and his blast speed is just pew. Lead work on here is scorching. I have not a problem with that at all. The few problems I did have, especially in the front half of the record, where it sounds like just parts were kind of shoehorned together and like, here you go. Not everything I thought fit. The back half of the record definitely picks up, and that's really cool. But I mean, overall, am I going to sit down and listen to this record again? Probably not. And again, that doesn't say that I think these guys suck. It's just not personally for me. Like, for me, I just didn't think that there was a whole lot to grab onto. The heavy parts were cool when they really happened. Again, the nasty breakdown on Nameless Hymn, that's fucking cool. But overall, if you're into bands like Aborted and Whitechapel and Cattle Decap, along with Mors Principium Est or Obscura even, you may want to give this a spin for yourself. Definitely check it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents. And our little perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we have gotten back to, and we will probably do one here, I don't know, probably maybe around the start of October.
Maybe.
Either way, memberships are the main way to support the channel, and if you'd like to help us out, there's a join button down there, which you can ride on your mighty steed down to the mosh pit and strike, verily, Sothuth and magic something. I don't know.
And even if you don't do that, it's cool. Not everybody has a steed. We understand. Mine's in the shop. I don't know where his is at. But,
I hate it.
Yep. Well, that's fine.
It was a long winter.
It was a long winter. It's always a long winter here in Northwest Ohio. Always, always, always. Anyway, if you don't hit that join button, it's cool, because we do tons of stuff that is for everybody, not just our members. Non-members only live streams, which I guarantee are just as stupid as the members only live streams. We do album reviews. We do discography rankings. We do States of Metal, multiple segments, multiple forums. We are just metal all the time here at Thralls of Metal. We do it for you guys because we appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a part of things. Thank you for still continuing to come and watch us. Doesn't make a lot of sense to us, but it does to you guys, and we appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely roll. Tons of content coming in the future. So one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.